Okay, so we are sitting down with Grace Archer today. So, Grace, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me and doing this interview with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I enjoy when you do these interviews in the past, so I'm happy to be a part of it now going into our future.
Okay, are we ready?
I hope so.
You can do. You got it, Grace. You got it. You got it. So we'll just start off first with an easy question. So, what inspired you to run?
Well, I was the clerk for over 30 years, and I've always kind of had like this caretaking personality, so I've been told. And I retired in August of 23, and I see this as an opportunity to step back into public service, and I'd really like to do more for our residents and do it from the opposite side of the table now, where I have a little bit more say, a little bit more do, and being retired, I have the time to do it.
So, I know you said you were, served for like over 30 years and you retired. So, did you miss it in a way?
Absolutely. I miss the residents the most, and that's no line of bull.
Oh, I'm sure you did. I mean, you connected with so many over the years, I'm sure.
Yes, I did.
We were just having that conversation of, you may not know somebody's face, but you always remember their name from being in City Hall all those years. All right, so we're going to jump into it.
Okay.
Here we go. You got this. You got this. Okay, so the city runs on 3 commissioners, a small professional staff, and many volunteers. How will you make sure those elected officials, staff, and volunteer organizations work together effectively?
Well, my main goal of what I've seen over the past couple of years is to get the communication between all parties and the public more focused and more out there. City Hall has been a little bit more reclusive than it was when we were on Farnsworth Avenue, including when I was out there at Park Street. So I'd like to get them involved and get them back to meeting and greeting the residents and listening to their concerns. I think the residents deserve that personal touch, that personal attention. Working with the commissioners, I think we just all need to remind ourselves that our common goal is the city, the residents, and how we move into the future and still maintain the historic fabric that we've been built upon all these years.
And how will you keep residents informed and involved?
That I've been giving some thought to the last week or so. I've been thinking a lot about that communication. I know when Heather Cheeseman was on the commission, she had made a statement at one of the meetings about being able to bring in some of our older neighborhoods and things that feel a little left out. Technology leaves out a lot of your older people. It's difficult for them, and it's some of them it's a big change. Some of them it's a monetary issue where they can't have the latest and greatest smartphone, iPad, or computer. And I know the library has a computer that's open to the public, but not everybody can get to the library. So I'm thinking somewhere along the line in good weather, having maybe community meetings where you go. We've got so many parks in different areas of the city. You've got the park over on West Street, you've got the park on 2nd Street, you've got Cars Lake. So you can reach a lot of the communities to gather in one place. That could be a possibility, getting people out to do that. Other ways could be, just taking a few moments on a weekend and going door to door and talk to some people in the neighborhoods. I really believe in communication. I really do. So that's one of the things. We've done newsletters in the past. I don't necessarily know how effective that has been. We do now have the capability to send out emails, but I don't see that being used as often as I think it could be. So we could reach people that have emails, and we can ask them, talk to your neighbor, ask your neighbor if they've got any concerns, if you know that they don't have the means to get these emails, things of that nature, just personal touch.
I think that's a good idea, like the concept of, keep going door to door, because a lot of times in town, You know, sometimes the only time you see people, you know, on the commission or running for commission is, you know, election time.
Right.
So you don't, you know, a lot of people don't even know who the commissioners are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
And that's why I think some more community events, like the Second Street Playground event that they've started doing, do a little bit more of that, but use our other parks also. You know, I
Yeah.
know the playground is a big one, but go over, use the West Street Park where you can reach the Burlington, West, and Borden, those streets in that area. Ann Street, if we ever get that park fixed and back online, you've got Mary Street, Ann Street, Spring Street that all can come in. Lafayette can come into that park. We've got that advantage, so why not use it?
Yeah, for such a small town, we have so many spaces.
Yes, we do.
We do. Okay, can you explain how you'll handle disagreements on the commission while keeping the city's best interests first?
Communication, communication, communication. You can disagree. Not everybody is going to be on the same page, but the most important thing is that you keep the conversation going. You don't shut down, you don't walk away, you stick it out, and you go over the pros and cons, and you compromise. There's got to be compromise. All agreements are done with compromise. There's nothing that comes set forth black and white, straight line, this is it, and there's no more conversation. The commissioners will have to have conversation and work together and keep first and foremost in their mind that we are there representing the growth of our city and the growth of our residents in being able to raise their families here and afford to do it.
And how can you ensure underrepresented voices are heard?
That's where I go back to where I've been thinking about the community events and such, trying to reach out to our older population. The seniors meet up at Cars Lake Monday through Thursday. You know, I get that other commissioners work full-time jobs. I have the luxury of being retired. Just go up there and talk to your senior population, talk to the ones that are up there. Reach out to the churches, the church representatives, and see if there's something that you can do there. I have a woman in my neighborhood that I talk to, I grew up with, next door to her. Reach out, and she's a minister. I could reach out to her and she could talk to her church parishioners. Just find out who needs help, who needs the assistance. It's really, I don't want to say simple, but it is that easy.
That's how, you know what?
Yeah.
How do we do it before social media?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
there's ways to do it.
Yes.
And let's see, where am I at with these questions? Hold on, everybody. Oh, here's a good one. Where can voters find your platform and campaign information, like website, social media?
Well, I'm not super technology, but I did create an Archer for Commissioner 2025. There's a Facebook page, and I've been trying to post every couple of days, answering questions that I do see on the social media on the Bordentown City Residents Facebook site. So you can always go search that on Facebook, find my page, follow it, like it, and you'll see photos.
You sound like a professional influencer.
Oh, I try. But yeah, go to my page and you'll find answers to questions there about transparency, about our committees, our Parks and Recreation Commission. You've asked about our water plant. You've asked about the communication. That seems to be a very big question, and that's why I really want to address that. Public safety and affairs, what our needs and stuff are there. There's a whole litany. I have this here that I have made up. I printed off from some of what I've got posted, and I'm going to be handing that out. But if you have the time and you can read a post at a time, whatever you want, but it's all there.
Okay, and can voters get lawn signs or from that website also, or from your page?
Well, unfortunately, run out of lawn signs, which is a good thing.
I was gonna say that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. And with it being this close to the election, I was unsure of whether I should purchase more signs or not. So you could always reach out to me. My phone number is there. My email is there. I've been trying to do meet and greets. I have a little card that I've passed out that has the information on there. I'm in the phone book.
Okay.
If you use a phone book.
I was just saying, does anybody use a phone book anymore?
Right.
All right. So, with limited resources and recent school budget shortfalls, how will you balance fiscal responsibility with meeting residents' needs, such as taxes, essential services?
That is a big question, and that is something that I've addressed on the Facebook page. As everyone knows, we lost Ocean Spray years ago as a big tax rateable for us. It was the largest one we had. Since that time, we've had a developer who came in with promises of mixed use, commercial businesses, luxury apartments, all that.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very disappointing that he just gave up on the issue. He just couldn't really come to terms with the city, with what the city needed and what we could do to help him. He sold the plant to another developer who lives out of state. He's in New York. And when I left office, it seemed like he just really had no interest in working with the city. He continued to do things his way. The city continued to issue fines and summonses for, lack of inspections and all that. And now I see a sign up there that it's available where I think that he's cleaned up the inside possibly, and he's looking for just turning it into a warehouse. That's not going to bring us a big rateable with it just being a warehouse. We need something else with revenue. We were very hopeful at the time when cannabis was legalized and we issued the ordinance that allowed so many licenses in town, and that was going to help with our revenues that come in each year. Because in order to have your balanced budget, you can't appropriate more than you anticipate coming in. Mm-hmm. So that makes it tough, and that's what makes the commissioners have to go to use the surplus. And that has hurt us because over the years we've had to use more and more surplus to meet the needs and try and relax the tax burden on the residents. Unfortunately, we've seen 10 cent, 8 cent, 9 cent increases. I'd like to try and get that back down to a more manageable increase each year. So we've really got to start to do some creativity and draw in some businesses, some development, and we don't have a whole lot of space for development.
Not like the township. I mean,
Exactly.
We always see things going up in the township, but
exactly,
it's
Right.
hard here.
Yes, and so that's what we need to do. We need to make some areas that can stand improvement, do some redevelopment areas. We've done that in the past, and expand on what the use is allowed in there, which gets into zoning issues. We've got to look at how our town is broken down into zones. I'm not well versed on that. I will be the first one to admit that, but I know it plays a big part in what we can bring into town. And I'd like to see us really be able to pursue more cannabis. Like out at Retro Fitness, I know they tried to get someone in there, but they had trouble at the state level. So the city has endorsed several candidates to open up those businesses. There were 4 when I left office for the Ocean Spray site, but like I said, the owner seems to not necessarily be very interested in working with the city and doing that, and I think those tenants have moved on.
Yeah. Name your top priority for Bordentown over the next 3 years and the specific steps of funding strategies, whether it be grants, bonds, public-private partnerships.
Well, the city has always operated on getting grants. Bonding is bonding our debt. When we do go out to, when we make big purchases, we pass ordinances. If you come to the meetings, we can explain that a little better to you. But you pass ordinances that allow you to spend money And then after a certain period of time, you have to seek the funding to back up those ordinances. It's a little confusing for someone who doesn't work in municipal government and doesn't know that this is the red tape that we have to cut through. But when we do, the CFO goes out, she seeks funding, bids from other banks, and it's the funding where we borrow the money back so that we can replenish our bank account and investment account, and we try to get the lowest interest rate possible. So, and our CFO, Margaret Peak, is very good at doing that. She's always been very good at working the numbers, and I would entrust her with doing that again and using our bond attorney for doing that.
Now, can you tell us about whether you support selling the water utility to New Jersey American Water or similar proposals, and why?
Absolutely not. Our water utility has been self-liquidating, which means it sustains its own debt. If we have the surplus in the water utility to make the repairs and do the work that we need to do, we produce quality water. I have no problems drinking our water.
I drink tap water at home, so.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are cautious about it, but it really is. We run that plant 24/7. We have knowledgeable people working up there, and we have people that care that are working up there. So they're going to make sure that that water is sparkling for you. The asset of having that utility it's valuable. It's property. It's when you go out to bonding, they see that you have this under your wing and you have that funding sitting there in your investment account. So it helps in that sense. New Jersey American and Aqua New Jersey, I feel, are two of the biggest water conglomerates. And unfortunately, and this is my own personal opinion, I feel that the New Jersey DEP and even the federal DEP, they're pushing smaller water utility companies out of business. They're pushing them, they're regulating them to go beyond their means. Some are probably even smaller than the city's utility. We do the city, the township, and we sell water to Fieldsboro. And I just think the overregulation and requirements without funding to back it up has put a hardship on smaller companies, and I think they're trying to push us out. And then you end up with two conglomerates. What do you think would happen with the cost for that?
Yeah.
It's going to skyrocket because they're going to talk to one another. They're going to agree, okay, let's make this our rates. And they're not going to think about the little people that they're servicing.
No.
The city still has one of the lowest water rates around. I have a girlfriend who lives in Mount Holly. Her water bill on a monthly basis is what my water bill is on a quarterly basis. Yeah. So that's why I said that's the big difference. And years ago, the city did sit down to talk with New Jersey American for an interconnection. Well, at that time, they knew we didn't necessarily need it. We wanted it as a backup to our water plant. Well, they wanted you to guarantee the purchase of a certain amount of water every year. Plus, we needed to put in all the piping to connect to theirs. It would be a huge undertaking and a big financial burden on the water department to have done that. I understand that the current administration is looking for a second water source, and they're looking to build another water plant, maybe not as big as the one we have right now in Hamilton Township, but just to have as a backup, because when we had to do the interconnect with Hamilton, when we had all that dry spell and the drought, that was an expensive undertaking for something that just was a one-time thing. So we want to get something that's our own and is self-liquidating also.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So public safety is a top concern, from speeding to traffic safety to police responsiveness. What specific fundable actions would you take to improve police service and daily safety?
Well, I think Chief Lafferty is doing a great job of turning the department around and getting the manpower. That, I think, has been problematic for the police department for quite some time now, is the getting the manpower.
I noticed a few new people.
Yes. Well, what happens is you have civil service, and the police departments are largely regulated by the civil service as far as titles and promotions, and even getting to be in on the bottom level as a law enforcement officer. So they do that testing, but they do it every 2 years. So you wait and you get the list. You have to pick candidates. You have to vet them. You have to then hire them, put them through the academy. Then they do field training with another officer in the department, and that usually is probably 3 to 4 months before they're even a full-time officer. So by the time they take the test and become a full-time officer for us, you've got a span of probably 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it takes that much time to vet them. What Chief Lafferty has been doing is there are always people that are looking to move from a department that they're already in. So some of them are special officers, so they've got part of the certification. So hiring them off of a hiring list through civil service, you can get a sheriff's officer, and then he just needs maybe 2 or 3 of the classes, a shorter FTO. So you're cutting down that time period. And as you know, and I'm sure most of our residents know, we had Captain Simmons retire in July of this year, and then we had Sergeant Jason Archer retire in October of this year. So we lost 2 very good officers, longtime officers. Jason had 18 years plus, and Matt Simmons had 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so, that kind of knowledge and experience is hard to replace. So he's trying to bring in guys that are already a few years in and have some training, and that way he can get them out on the road and get them patrolling quicker. And I don't know if anybody's really noticed it, but you can see our guys now walking on Farnsworth Avenue.
Yeah.
It's the special officers, and that's great to see. We haven't had that in a while. Some of our regular officers, you have 2 on patrol during the day and you've got 2 at night. 2 at night, I think, is a little dangerous. I know it's a small community, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We've got so many highways and things that kind of empty right here into Bordentown City and Bordentown Township, that it's a pretty active community at nighttime. So you've got 2 officers trying to cover our square mile, and they can't be in every place at once. This gives them a little bit more manpower, a little bit more movement in the shifts. You have a guy that works like 3 to 3, and the other guys are 6 to 6, so you've got overlap. It's just a win-win everywhere, and Chief Lafferty's been doing an excellent job with that.
If you were given $25,000 today to advance your public safety plan, how would you spend it, and what would success look like to you?
Well, in public safety, again, we go back to our police and our fire departments. Our fire departments are volunteers still. We're probably dinosaurs as far as that. A lot of communities have went to paid. We like our volunteer firefighters. We know them. They show up. They can comfort us because they know us.
They're so involved in the community too.
Yes, they are.
do so much for us.
Absolutely. Yes, and we like to give back. I would say equipment and technology. Equipment, technology, and training. Training. The police department has, some outdated computer systems. Sometimes it's difficult to keep up with the county computer programs because your computer is old, it kicks out on you, it freezes. We all know those typical problems. In our fire departments, the guys have training that they should do on the regular. They need the funding for that. And the equipment. Fire equipment is important not only to the firefighters that are fighting the fire, but to the entire community. What a lot of people, I think, don't realize is the city gets and I forget what the acronym is. It's ISO, but it's a fire rating basically, and they come in and they check out all your equipment. They certify if it's in working condition, good condition, appropriate for the town. They check your fire hydrants, where your fire hydrants are, and that determines your homeowner's insurance. A few years ago, the township found themselves in a pickle because one of the fire companies failed to get the certifications that it needed, and residents started getting bills from their homeowners telling them that their insurance had jumped. I had a relative whose insurance had jumped to up over $1,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, from like
Wow.
400. So it really,
it trickles down.
absolutely. So for the community safety, you have to have prepared firefighters and police officers. They need medical training, they need fire training, they need people training. You need to know how to handle somebody.
Yeah.
If somebody is very upset when there's a tragedy, something going on, you need to be able to talk to that person, comfort that person. So it's training in all areas. It's the technology. It really is, because it all reflects on what you can do for your community.
So we're going to go into some sidewalk issues here.
Oh, everyone's favorite subject.
I'll tell you. Well, I went to one of those meetings when I fell, so this is an
Yes.
important one to me. So sidewalk repairs, abandoned, vacant properties, such as a former gas station at Farnsworth and 130. We talked about the Ocean Spray site, and downtown parking are frequent concerns. So, how will you ensure timely sidewalk repairs and clarify if it's a homeowner versus city responsibility?
Okay.
That's confusing to me.
Yeah. Well, there is an ordinance in place, and when I was still in the clerk's office, I would try and get that ordinance to anyone who called and asked about it. There is a responsibility of the homeowner out to the curb to take care of that sidewalk, that grassy area, see that is cut. And it's spelled out. The city's responsibility for uplifted sidewalks is basically the street trees that have been planted by the city over all the years. Any utility work that we've done, you dig up for a water leak, you need to put everything back, the sidewalk needs to be replaced, you have to do that. It's all spelled out in this ordinance. Let me see, I don't know if I put the ordinance number in here, but what I'll do is I'll put the ordinance number on my Facebook page.
Oh, okay, perfect.
That way they can see
Perfect.
that. But yeah, there is a difference between homeowner responsibility and the city's responsibility. This ordinance does spell it out. The city, for over 30 years, has had a sidewalk program. John Warman, when he was in as a commissioner, he was very diligent about getting that done. We were doing a lot of the work in-house. That's difficult to do. You have to get the person skilled. You have to know how to put down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of just digging the hole, throwing the concrete in, sweeping it a little bit, and it's nice and level. So, and it takes up a lot of time. And we've got a lot of parks, as we mentioned earlier. So, I think the city has been doing a pretty good job, really, of addressing the trees and the sidewalks. In the last couple of years, I think because of fiscal binds with the monies, it's kind of like they've had to prioritize where they put the money, and we're not getting as much done. We used to get trees done in the spring and trees done in the fall, with the sidewalk repair going hand in hand. I think that has fallen off. What I'd like to do is sit down with the CFO and with their Shade Tree Commission, because they play a big part in determining which trees are street trees, which ones are dying, which ones just need trimming, which ones need to come down. And of course the Public Works Department, and try and formulate something. Now, I understand from Mayor Jen that they've just finished a tree inventory, and it's prioritizing trees throughout the town. So hopefully I'd like to be able, in January, when everyone takes office, I'd like to be able to be a part of that and look at that inventory and go from there.
Okay. And How will you bring problem properties back into productive use while addressing environmental or vandalism issues?
Well, I know we tried our best to go when there's been vandalism, and I know we have boarded up houses. Unfortunately, it's a painstaking process with addressing these properties. We can't just arbitrarily walk in and say this. We have to seek out the property owners. We have to try and work with the property owners. And sometimes it becomes a very long, drawn-out process. We have a property over on West Street that, oh my goodness, Jennifer Smith in zoning and the planning board, she has been working on this property for years. And I think we're still kind of at a standstill. It's kind of like, all right, I think next week we're going to finally be able to do this, and then something else happens. It's all legalities, you know. A number of years ago, we all sat down, the city attorney, we had the folks from the DCA there for properties, for condemnation. That's a process too, to condemn a place, to be able to tear it down. You have to go through, you have to find the property owners, you have to send letters, there's certain processes you have to go through. People, I hate to say this, you have to be patient.
It takes time.
But patience is thin when you're living next door to one of those properties.
Yep.
Patience is thin, and I don't blame that resident. So, I mean, I have a property next to me that's bank owned, and it's been vacant now for several years, and there's nothing happening on it. I know of a gentleman who approached the bank. He wanted to buy it and rehab it, and I thought that was great. But the bank just kind of said, no, you can go on your way. So, and it's
crazy.
a shame. Banks aren't in the real estate business. They're in the banking business. So let the property go if someone wants to do something with it. And, you know, and that's what we need to do.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
get
tough.
it. Like, why just let it sit there like crap?
Exactly.
Ugh.
You know?
It's so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Here goes the big one here.
Uh-oh.
Everybody's favorite topic in town.
Oh, no.
How will you solve the parking shortage?
Oh, my goodness.
And also, do you support parking meters and paid parking? If not, what alternatives would you bring?
Well, I do address this on the Facebook page, and what I'll try to keep simple is I know the current administration is working on this. I know that they've offered up several different types of solutions, and I know the permit parking has been talked about, metered parking has been talked about. That's a really difficult situation to resolve. Ever since I started working for the city, parking has always been talked about, has always been an issue. We started a shuttle back in, I think it was like 2016, and we tried to get people to use the shuttle. We would advertise it, we would have drivers on the weekend. A couple of the businesses uptown have the valet parking. That seems to work to some extent. What people have to understand and really look at is the fact that, especially in our downtown district, we have all the businesses, but those businesses, many of them, have apartments over top.
Yep. Hello.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't always find that when you go into other in a business district.
Yeah.
You just find the commercial businesses. You might have the owner of the business living over top, but you may not have the family who you know, first dad was only working, but now dad and mom are working, because as our economy has weakened, it's taken two income families. Then you've got the child who comes into driving age. Now he has a car. So now you've got 3 cars in an apartment over top of a business who has 3 employees. Maybe the owner is there every day also. And then you've got customers. You've got a parking problem.
Yep.
It's plain and simple, and it is not going to be an easy solution, and it's going to take a lot of compromise on everybody's part. Residents, business owners, the employees of those business owners, and the commissioners.
Yeah.
It really is. And there is no easy solution.
No, I don't even, there's so many years, like you said, parking. Everybody talks about parking, but it's just, I don't even know if there's a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there has to be, but it's tough in a small town.
Right. Well, and if you look at our streets, you look at Prince Street, those houses are connected. It's not like a house with a little bit of lawn area and then another
Yep.
house with a little. That's what gives you room on your parking. You come out in the area where I live, the houses are single houses. They're not duplex houses. So that's where your parking really gets crowded because there is no little bit of space.
Yeah.
I've got a house with some lawn on this side and some lawn on this side. So that carries through. That makes the space wider on the street. It's less houses on the street. Prince Street, you've got them. Crosswick Street, they're same way. Thompson Street.
Oliver, every
Yes,
street,
every
really.
street. Because we are a historic town that had a trolley system on Farnsworth Avenue, and we had horse and buggy.
Yep.
Horse
Yeah.
and buggy.
Yep.
It is. So it's
But you know what?
difficult.
You just came up with a solution.
Uh-oh.
No more cars in Bordentown. Horse and buggies.
We all go back to horse and buggy. We all become part of the Amish community, and
Yes, that's it.
and we do horse and buggy.
Yep. All right. The interview's over. No. You solved it.
We've solved the problems of the world.
Okay. How will you balance new development with preserving Bordentown's historic character and affordability for current residents?
Well, new development is difficult because there really isn't that much land space here in the city for new development. However, that being said, you have the Clare Estate and those houses. We don't know what the owner of Clare Estate is going to do with that property now that it's been closed as an assisted living facility. So that kind of development, this is where I say redevelopment comes in. When you can determine and justify a redevelopment area, because it takes, I believe, Chuck Latini, the city planner, he's probably working on that. The county used to work on redevelopment plans for the city, but I believe that Chuck may be doing that. They develop a plan and they coordinate what uses can go in there. When you coordinate what uses can go in there as opposed to what the whole neighborhood entails, which right in that area is residential, then you can provide for redevelopment, and you can come in and do something with the Clare Estate, much like what they did with the Eagle Union apartments.
Still Pants Factory.
Right. They came in. That was a historic building. They preserved as much of the building as they could. They made it into a low-income senior housing. So there was redevelopment. It's a tax rateable, but it was something that made Bordentown City affordable to some of the residents who are older or on a fixed income and don't necessarily have the means to live in one of the apartments that the rent is, I don't know, $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
Where down here, depending upon your income, your circumstances, it could be anywhere from $700 to $1,200. Whatever you could afford. So I think looking at that, and that's what the current administration has started. So I would hope in January to get in and continue down that road with that plan and just tweak it where it needs to be tweaked.
Yeah. Describe community building initiatives you would start or expand to strengthen civic ties, such as parks and rec programs, historic preservation commission, public events.
Oh, okay. Well, I talked about community events as far as outreach to residents and stuff. The historic preservation, I think, really needs to be looked at. I understand applications that have come into the city for members on that board are being looked at. I would really like to get that Historic Preservation Commission up and running again, and I would want it, we probably need to revamp the ordinance and set up the guidelines for exactly what we want them to do, and that would be preserve the historic sites and things here around in the city. They can work with the Historical Society, which is a separate entity of its own, and they do a wonderful job with the properties that they own. But working together, I think we really can bring out more of the historic nature of the town and get that out to the public, and people can come and enjoy those same things that sometimes we take for granted
Yeah.
because it's right in here in our own town. That's an important committee. Parks and Recreation, I really think the intent of that ordinance when they formed the commission was good, but it hasn't been looked at, it hasn't been changed or revamped, and I think it needs to be reviewed, looked at, and I think we need to get a chairman that can oversee those different committees that are formed under that Parks and Recreation Commission, which is like the Old City Hall group, the Bordentown Vet Memorial group, the Parks and Recreation group, and have one person to oversee, make sure these committees are meeting, doing what their mission statement says that what their group is formed for, their purpose, and then have him or her report to the commissioners, maybe on a quarterly basis. This is what we're looking. This is what we're proposing, just for some oversight. Because right now, your director of public property oversees Parks and Recreation, infrastructure, the water department, the public works department. That's a lot of responsibility for one person to really try and keep a good handle on. If you can get someone competent to chair that Parks and Recreation Committee and oversee those committees and submit a report, I think that would be wonderful.
That was actually the follow-up question was, do you support reestablishing the Historic Preservation Commission? And you just answered
absolutely.
it, so
Yes.
So here's a good one. Which department would you ideally like to oversee as a commissioner? And what qualifications or experience make you the best fit to manage its day-to-day operations?
Oh, that's a very loaded question.
Yes.
My heart has always been with public safety, and most people know that. However, I know the appearance, of any kind of impropriety, that would be kind of a judgment type thing, because I have a son that still works for the police department. But the public safety things I've always been involved in. When I was a clerk, I helped out with all the emergency management. When Jim Lynch did his thing, Brian Majeri, we pulled together reports and the information. I got the information from the federal government, FEMA, with all of that. So it was very interesting to me, and like I said, public safety is important. Public Works is another great department, and like I just said, it can be overwhelming for one person to kind of oversee, because there is so much involved in that. But just the fact of being the municipal clerk, I was involved with the contracts, the day-to-day work. I worked with Bob Erickson all the time. He would come in, as did the CFO. I have a very good working knowledge of all three departments. Revenue and Finance, that's what I was a part of as being the municipal clerk. I worked with the CFO, I worked with the tax collector, I worked with the water clerk. We all knew the finances coming in, we all knew what we needed to do, we all knew the red tape that had to be unstuck. So any department would be ideal, depending on who was also elected as commissioner.
Yeah.
As you know, it's usually worked out between the three. So I would be willing to take on any department, but Public Works would be very interesting too. It would, and I would be out and about as opposed to being in the office.
You want to get out there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, is there anything, we're coming to the end of our interview here.
Okay.
Is there anything that we didn't go over, or any questions I didn't ask you that maybe you'd like to discuss, or anything else you'd like to, tell the people out there?
Basically, my again, kind of touching on what I said in the very beginning, my reason for running is I love the city of Bordentown. I've been here for 47 years. As a young girl, I used to ride the public service bus up from Fieldsboro. I grew up in Fieldsboro, and I would walk the avenue and go into all the little five and dimes. And there was a woman on Crosswick Street that I used to go in, and she used to sit and tell me tales about Bordentown City and the history. So I've always had a love for the city. I love it even more after working almost 33 years for the city. The residents, I love the residents. Even though I may not know you on the street, I recognize a name and I go, oh, okay, I know a little bit about you. So I just am very community oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I was on PTO when my children were going through school. I did Bordentown Little League. I served as their president for 8 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I was
Wow.
their vice president for 4 years. And then I had one of the divisions when the boys were 8 and 9. We had that. I just love the city.
Well, you can tell.
And I love to talk to the residents, and I really, communication. That's a big deal for me.
Well, Grace, thank you so much. It was a pleasure sitting down and talking with you today. I think in all the years we've known each other, we've never have done a video together.
No, and as nervous as I was, you made it very relaxing, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I told you, and I tell people this all the time. You're going to just feel like we're sitting down and having a conversation.
And I did, and I
Alright.
thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome, Grace, and thank you so much again for
Okay.
meeting with me today. I even learned some things about you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.